What's going on, cigar enthusiasts? What's going on, cigar world? This is Jack the Cigar Enthusiast, and I'm back with another video. And today, we're answering the question, why Cuban? With that being said, strap in, buckle up, and let's go.
Pull up in motorcade.
So why Cubans? A lot of people sit here and try to debate back and forth refusely on what is the best cigar in the world. And a lot of people crown the Cuban as the top hitter within the actual cigar industry. Now, I'm not agreeing, but I'm not also disagreeing. There are a lot of cigars grown in other countries that compete very well with the Cuban. Your top premium cigars that's typically grown in Nicaragua and Honduras and Dominican Republic compete equally with the Cuban cigar. And the best way to figure that out is by looking at the top 25 list of cigars made by Cigar Aficionado, and you will see that there is some cigars that rate well above a Cuban. Now, don't get me wrong, Cubans are a very awesome smoke, and I have had quite a few in my time. Actually, there are 40 different brands of Cubans. A lot of people typically go back and forth about the ones that they typically know, the Monte Cristo and Cohiba. And a lot of times they're determining if this is real and this is fake, but not really understanding a Cuban. And really trying to figure this out can really be one of those things where you just pull out your hair because you really don't know. You're torn. So the history of Cuba is that it was founded by Christopher Columbus and his sailors. And a lot of sailors that was part of that voyage stopped in Haiti and Dominican Republic. And within that, they noticed that the tribes there was taking leaves, wrapping them up really tight and putting a leaf wrapper on them and smoking them. And they didn't really understand why, but they really loved the concept behind what we call the cigar now. So when Christopher Columbus and his crew discovered Cuba, they realized that they did the same thing there, but theirs was different from everybody else's. Why? Because Cuba has a natural humidity and temperature control. And any given day, Cuba is typically 73 degrees as well as a humidity of 65, which is ideal for cigars. Me personally, I like to keep mine around 66 and 66 degrees, 66% humidity. And that allows it to really have a robust flavor and really bring those oils out your cigars. But what makes Cubans different is the fact that the soil is packed with so many rich nutrients, and the soil cannot be found anywhere else in the world. But they realize that the best Cuban tobacco is grown in this place called Pinar del Rio, which is located in a small province right outside of San Luis, which is really where majority of your Cuban wrappers typically come from. A group of farmers that grow some phenomenal tobaccos over there. But what we all think of when we think of Cuban cigars is Havana. Havana is the central location where majority of the cigars are grown. Like I said earlier in this video, there are about 40 different cigar brands of Cubans. So a lot of people really don't know that. A lot of people have not tasted all of them. So they typically make an argument that Cohiba is the best cigar or Monte Cristo is the best cigar. And that's what they compare to the rest of them. But what makes those cigars more phenomenal than cigars that we typically see in majority of our humidors in America is the fact is those tobaccos, being that they are grown in that type of culture and the soil is so rich with nutrients, tobacco typically has a high concentrate of nitrate, which really creates a more powerful and flavorful cigar. So a lot of people are saying that when they say a Cuban is better is that their palates react really well to the medium to full body cigars that majority of the Cuban cigars are. Now there are some mild body cigars that really not stimulate your palates too much, but majority of the cigars made in Cuba really stimulate it. And also that is a culture where cigars are praised. You know, it makes a Cuban different from one of those other cigars grown in another country is the fact of the matter is you 9 times out of 10 don't have a large abundance of them, or you don't have a way to get a large abundance of them, which make them a rare topic to talk about and which really prompts people to go crazy when they see people smoking a Cuban. What they don't understand is the cigars that you see within your humidor was ancestors of the Cuban cigar. So companies like Monte Cristo, which was the first company to break out of Cuba when the embargoes really happened and moved over, I believe, and don't quote me on this, in either Nicaraguan or the Dominican Republic, and created a cigar based on the Cuban seeds. But what they realized is that the soil was different in Cuba, which really gave it that impactful flavor that we love so much in the Cuba. And then a lot of other companies started doing it. La Aroma del Cuba was another company that broke off and started doing their thing. Hoyo de Monterrey broke off and started their thing. The moral of the story is a lot of the cigars that you tasted today originated or came from the concept of Cubas. Actually, one of my favorite cigars, which is the Padron and Arthur Fuente, are Cuban root cigars. They were created based on how they can compare to an actual Cuban. Understanding that concept, we have to understand that cigars are delicate products, and depending on the humidity, depending on where it was grown at, is depending on how well that cigar is going to do. All my people watching that do have regular access to Cubans, you will find that even they love Cubans, but they will also love a good cigar that are not Cuban, and they compare very well. So if you ever trying to beat yourself up because you haven't had a Cuban and you just started off smoking, and in order to really become an aficionado you have to smoke a Cuban, no, that is not true. That is not true. Treat a Cuban as if it was a regular cigar, and really try to figure out why that cigar could be good for you, or why that cigar is a prestige cigar to you. Because again, some of the top tier cigars on the market not only compare, but some have a better palate stimulation than a Cuban. And also, if I can challenge y'all to do something, is get away just from your Cohibas and get into the other Cuban cigar brand cigars, your Monte Cristos, your Hoyo de Monterreys, Hutmans. Those are some phenomenal cigars that you would typically not see counterfeited on the streets. And never buy a Cuban cigar from somebody selling it on the streets, because 9 times out of 10, it's a fake. And you're going to go on the internet and you're going to ask, "Hey Jack, is this a fake cigar?" And I'm going to tell you, hell yeah! Where'd you buy it from? If you bought it from the street, then it's fake. Now, you have to be mindful where else you're buying cigars from, because I've been into some really nice hotels that quote unquote sell Cubans, and because I know cigars, I'm like, that's a fake cigar. So you just gotta be cautious of where you buy your cigars from. Typically try your hardest to buy that cigar from a cigar establishment, a brick and mortar cigar lounge, or whatever the case may be. With that being said, I really hope you understand the difference in a Cuban cigar and a non-Cuban cigar. But to really hit it home, next time you get a chance, look at Cigar Aficionado's Top 25. See how many Cubans are on there. Also, see how many Cubans are #1. And go year from year. And it'll really just start to educate you. Now, don't get me wrong. If you haven't tried a Cuban, you need to try a Cuban. They're really great cigars. But if you haven't, you're not missing nothing. Go get a Davidoff, go get a Padron, go get a Arthur Fuente, Opus X. Those are phenomenal cigars that compare very well to a Cuban. With that being said, subscribe, share, and like this video. This is Jack the Cigar Enthusiast, and I'm gone.